Welcome to Wrasslin Raw! All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Bartlett, have you ever done a Marisol?
Joe Giammatteo.
Only in America can a young Japanese immigrant have Sonny announce his victory.
The dream of all. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett. We're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw is War at a time. But first, we've been hitting a lot of milestones around here. You know, the first confrontation between The Rock and Stone Cold, Vince McMahon hitting our screens as Mr. McMahon, and another milestone that we've come across is 1,000 followers on Facebook. What a number. What do you think about that, guys?
It's pretty cool. You know, we don't do a ton on Facebook, but we do put all our episodes out there, and to have 1,000 people out there following us, pretty cool.
I would like to thank Gangsta Baby Dick for pushing.
That's what put us over the top.
Gangsta Baby Dick gave us the push.
I mean, you know, we did do a certain amount of the heavy lifting here. I can maybe attribute like maybe 38 of those followers to our skill and charisma on the microphone, but 962 of them, that's baby Gangsta Dick.
For sure. No other explanation.
Thank you, pal.
In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on December 1st, 1997. This Raw was recorded at the Roanoke Civic Center in Roanoke, Virginia, and features Jim Ross, Jim Cornette, and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then, let's get into it. Last week, the Legion of Doom were supposedly cheated out of their tag team titles when the Legion of Doom knocked out the ref, and then a substitute ref showed up to count a legal pinfall against them. Cheated.
What?
The still unnamed New Age Outlaws came out first tonight. There was some serious heat out in the crowd. They were almost drowning out the Road Dogg, who I thought did really well on the microphone in his little intro. I really liked the roadkill and dumbass sign in the crowd. That was some good stuff. But despite everyone telling us that the LOD was not present, they were. And the Legion of Doom very quickly cleared the ring after running in to get on the mic and cut some promos. Despite that crowd noise, I wasn't all that excited that the Legion of Doom are going to be on the tag champs like ugly on an ape, as Hawk put it. And that was pretty much it for this first segment. I do feel like Roadkill and Dumbass are getting over, and I feel like I can clearly see the progress now that they've been making. This episode, something about them in this episode was just a leap beyond where they were the last time we saw them. But I also can't help but agree that in this program, Legion of Doom are, as the Road Dogg put it, indeed dinosaurs. For the scene. Joe, I wanted to hear your thoughts first on this tag team program we've got going.
Well, I guess outside of this show, what I read in the news here this week was that the dinosaurs are going to be going away for a little bit. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but
we kind of wondered that last week.
Yeah, you might wonder that. So we'll see what happens there. But I think that you have some good observations here, Mr. Bartlett. The Outlaws, not yet named the Outlaws, are definitely getting over. There's huge, vast improvement now from them as far as connecting with the crowd. Much more now than there was when they first came on the scene here a couple months ago. So, yeah, things are looking better there. They're looking more DX-like.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me wonder still, like, when creative decided, hey, we're going to put these guys in DX. I kind of wonder when they decided they were going to do that. So this is interesting to watch their growth.
Yeah, I agree. You know, watching their growth has been pretty cool. And this is the first time the Road Dogg's entrance here it's very close to the one they'll settle on.
Yeah.
He comes out saying the ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. He says both of their names, the badass Billy Gunn, the road dog Jesse James. He's honing that entrance, and it's getting really close. He will revert a little later in the night, but this time he comes out and it's sounding how we remember it. And the crowd was really into LOD, but they're not exactly hating the road dog and badass anymore. I do think they're lightening up, like you both mentioned. Hawk and Animal come out and they attack from behind, and they're in street clothes, which made me wonder if we had another bunkhouse brawl on our hands coming. And then Hawk gets on the mic, and, you know, it kind of reminded me of Stone Cold. Not himself, but he came in, he did the whelp, and he did the water rush. You know, he hit the points. It's almost like his punch, kick, stun, drink of Stone Cold. It's whelp, water rush, the crowd pops, you know, and that's it. That's what he comes in for. I enjoyed it, though. Every time he does it, I like it. So, you know, he knows what he's doing. But it makes sense, Joe, that you said they are going to be going away for a little bit, and it does kind of seem like that over the last few weeks. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and I hate to say that because, I mean, we were pretty up on them whenever they first got here, but it was very evident almost from the beginning that throwing the Legion of Doom into the tag team scene wasn't exactly the best way to refresh it. It breathed a little bit of life into it.
Yeah. It's almost like we're witnessing a little bit of a passing of the torch here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, it was good for a short amount of time for a nostalgia pop, but
it was a good boost.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we all mentioned the growth that we were able to see with the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn here. And I tell you what, I was watching some growth when Sunny came out.
Oh,
An amazing pink dress. She was looking smoking in that dress.
Take a look if you would.
To be ring announcer for our first match of the night. Taka Michinoku defeats Aguila by a pinfall in 6 minutes and 19 seconds in a light heavyweight title tournament semifinal match. Sunny was definitely covered in stripper glitter. We got a good view of it there whenever she was up in the ring. I loved Aguila trying and failing to get the crowd excited. It was good to see. And honestly, I checked out at about the time that Taka threw himself into the corner post and then threw himself into Aguila's way to catch the corkscrew moonsault at the outside. And that's all I've got. With this victory, Taka goes on to the championship final at the pay-per-view next week. Joe, what'd you think of this match?
Well, I'm a big fan of Sunny's outfits, very nostalgic stripper looks that she comes out with here, and nice amount of oil and glitter on the chest, so we all like to see that. As far as this match, I am already bored of Taka at this point, unfortunately. He does all of the same fucking moves in every one of his matches.
Yep.
I mean, you could watch his last 5 matches and probably not see one difference in any of them.
And to be honest, that is my biggest problem with high flyers. It's just it's too pre-planned. It's too rehearsed.
Yeah, it's very rare that you have one that does do different shit all the time. I mean, I don't know if you'd maybe consider RVD a high flying guy.
That's exactly who I was thinking of for your example.
Eddie Guerrero, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. There's some examples, but they're the greatest at it.
Yeah. And that's what helps separate guys like Mick Foley, Steve Austin, The Rock. They're doing different shit in their matches, and Taka doesn't do that. So I'm already kind of over it, and we're going to see a lot more of him, so that kind of sucks.
Yeah, we're going to get Taka for a while. Things to point out in this match, I don't know, I'll call him Agula, like Dragula, but Cornette says that he is only 19 and has been wrestling for 4 years already, and then and then pokes fun at the child labor laws in Mexico. And I had to say to myself, is he forgetting about Jeff Hardy?
No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, completely legal age there. But, as you both already kind of hinted at, this was very choreographed, and there's just no difference between this match or any other time we've seen Taka. He gets his shit in, and the match is over. I will give a little bit of credit. At one point, we had that corkscrew moonsault off the top rope onto the outside, and it hit Taka, and, at least... if that was done today, they would have needed at least a half dozen people there to catch him. So I was happy that you just had one Taka there. So I'll give them a little bit of credit for that. But the light heavyweight tournament and division in general is really starting to go stale, unfortunately.
I think the only thing that could save Taka for me is if they put him in there with somebody of high caliber, like Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart would have been great, but he's gone. But somebody like that can maybe elevate, maybe do like that Bret Hart versus 1-2-3 Kid type of thing with Taka, but I don't see that happening, unfortunately.
Another, by the book high flyer just isn't going to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it is documented canon that Bret Hart hates the Japanese. I'm pretty sure that's a for sure thing.
We learned that about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Yeah.
I can't remember. Does Taka go on to have more of a Davey and Goliath type program with a bigger competitor?
Probably at some point. I just don't remember. Yeah.
After the light heavyweight division falls to shambles.
Yeah. I'm remembering him as more of a proto Rey Mysterio, the little guy that's going to start taking on bigger guys and have that whole story, All right. Well, let's move it along. After a quick commercial break, by God, we got an amazing sight. The main squeeze herself, Luna Vachon, walking out from behind the curtain, leading Goldust on a chain. Goldust was using a wheeled walker.
I thought Goldust was forever unchained, though. Why is he on a chain?
This is of his own doing, though. So,
that was the artist formerly known as Goldust, and this is.
Plus, let's not forget, Luna is from the future. So, anything goes.
She knew that the chain was a foregone conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even express how hard I popped when I saw Goldust coming out in this fucking
with the
neon
ball
gimp outfit. And we've been bitching for months about Goldust needing to get back to the bazaar, and he poured it out in spades.
He did. He jumped into the deep end with this one.
So we were talking about this off air before we started recording, and this is where I hit it in my notes. So either the WWF or the Cock rewrote some history here. Supposedly last week on Raw, there was footage of Goldust in a wheelchair and Vader attacking Goldust in the wheelchair. And then Goldust had a nurse there who obviously ended up being Luna in disguise. She had a big syringe full of, I guess, alcohol, rubbing alcohol or something that she sprayed.
Sulfuric acid.
Yeah. She sprayed in Vader's face. And that's the scene that was referenced last week and why Vader had a bandage on his eye last week. And I remember us commenting, we don't know what the hell they're talking about here.
We thought maybe it was on Superstars or something.
Yeah, Vader took acid to the face and a hammer to the dome.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to see him tonight, right?
No, he's dead.
He's dead.
Yeah. Yeah, the hammer to the dome the week before, and then acid directly to the forehead or directly to the eye the next week. I mean, he's done, right?
Yeah.
The mastodon is extinct.
Yeah.
Hitting the head like an asteroid.
So either way, I mean, I really wish that we would have had this scene on Raw last week because it looked entertaining as hell. More bizarre shit.
Mm-hmm.
So here in the present, Jerry Lawler was in the ring to interview Luna and Goldust, and we kept getting amazing views of Goldust's pink ball gag, his chromed out man titties with big red lipstick nipples, and wearing a G-string outside of this neon yellow latex suit. And the camera work was fucking amazing on this, too. We kept getting these really sleazy angles and close-ups as Luna declared that this thing in latex was the artist formerly known as Goldust. And I completely forgot about this phase of Goldust's career, this whole Prince knockoff thing, you know? I fucking loved Luna screaming about whips and chains. And the artist formerly known as Goldust was whining and gargling on the ball gag, pawning and fawning over her. God, I wish I could just recite the entire script of this, because in between headshots of Luna, we also got glimpses of Goldust like rolling around on the mat and spanking himself. And then it finished up and we switched to a fucking Karate Fighters installment. The holiday tournament, I guess, is still going. This time it was Jerry Lawler versus Tito Santana. Lawler won and will face Sonny in the final. I guess that's at the pay-per-view. I don't really fucking know. But anyway, that's where this whole segment ended. I fucking loved every second of this degenerate material. Ryan, please, what did you think of it?
Oh, man. You know, the moment I saw Goldust come out with the walker in a full-on gimp outfit.
Well, I'm an invalid.
I was like, what the fuck am I watching? And then, you know, seeing Luna go apeshit in the ring, I really missed her craziness. Yeah. I love that Luna is back because I really do enjoy her. She is one of the few legitimate women wrestlers of this time that actually looks like a force to be reckoned with in the ring.
Yeah.
And she looks even bigger now. I think she must have hit a few cycles. Her like arms and shoulders look a bit wider than the last we saw.
That's a lot of grilled chicken.
Yeah, just chicken and rice. But when Goldust started just rolling around, spanking himself, I mean, we've been asking for months for Goldust to go back to the bazaar, and boy, he fucking brought it tonight.
Yeah, we are officially in the I would like to get breast implants phase of Goldust, I think. Yeah, this is quite the switch being flipped here, even though we got a little bit of a taste of it before with the Whack-Evader segment. This is like, holy shit, where did this come from, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really nice because when you talk about the edginess of the show, it's been really ramped up the past couple months, mainly through DX. Mm-hmm. And nothing else, really, other than maybe Austin giving the finger more than he was before. But like, but this
saying ass a couple more times,
yeah. This is a nice compliment to DX. I mean, this is like, how much more edgy could you get at this time on cable TV? So
it's got attitude,
and this is attitude, and these two fucking go all in on this angle. I mean, when they were tongue kissing at the end, I was like, holy shit. These two are all in on this, and I fucking love that.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I love is not the Karate Fighters tournament, but the commentary during Karate Fighters. I am obsessed with Vin McMannequin and Jumbo Jim. I love it.
I didn't comment on the Karate Fighters. I'll throw in one thing, though. I did love the opening line, or I guess the exchange between the King and Santana. Santana says to him, Burger King, and he goes, okay, Taco Bell. Wow. Just perfect. How much better can you do? Someone calls you Burger King, retort with Taco Bell. I mean,
it's making me hungry.
Golden.
Well, you know, and to be fair to the Karate Fighters tournament, this wasn't a bad installment. It's just that it was side by side with one of the best fucking things I've seen in a very long time. And it kind of diminishes it, you know? Lawler versus Tito Santana is much better than the midgets being in there.
Yeah.
Well, the next thing, though, I mean, you're going to love it, right?
So Jim Cornette and Jim Ross both said that this next segment would be a train wreck. It's our next match. Chains with the DOA defeats D'Lo Brown with the Nation of Domination, Miguel Sasquatch Perez with Los Boricuas, and Recon with the Truth Commission by pinfall in 3 minutes and 40 seconds in a 4-way elimination match.
Oh.
Yeah, oddly enough, and I'm not saying I missed this, but Crush was the only one not present out of those factions.
Yeah, they showed us the footage of the big red rocket killing him earlier.
So I guess the rule in this was that you cannot reject a tag. and to do so would be instant disqualification, which I thought would be kind of a good gimmick for a match if it was maybe longer than 3 minutes and 40 seconds and had anybody but these four people in it. I hate to say that about the Nation of Domination, but they're kind of lumped in with a pile of shit here. I thought D'Lo looked great, as usual, in his time in the ring, but unfortunately that was not the entire time. Recon got pinned first, then D'Lo, then Sasquatch Perez, and of course, this ended up in a clusterfuck in the ring. The Jackal, the fucking Jackal, ended up on commentary then during the clusterfuck, with JR and Cornette both pointing out that the Jackal isn't with his team and that the Truth Commission were in fact leaving without him, strongly implying that the Jackal did not matter at all. I loved how they both just dismissed him entirely as the match ended. And that's it for this. I mean, I hated it, obviously. Ryan, what'd you think of it?
Yep, hated it. I mean, could they lose my attention any harder than to have this style of match with these people involved, the gang warfare bullshit over top of it for the last few months? I just hated it all. You know, thankfully we start off with D'Lo Brown in the ring and he looked okay, but then Recon came in and commentary tries their best to put him over, talking about how athletic he is for his size. But I'm sorry, my eyes don't lie. He fucking sucks. There's nothing good about the Recon. And he got thankfully humiliated and pinned by Chains immediately after. And then D'Lo got pinned by Sasquatch. How does a four-way end this quickly? Not that I'm, angry about it, but you have four teams involved, and it was over in, a minute and some change?
3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah, 3 minutes. Seems a bit bizarre for a 4-on-4 tag team match, but whatever. I'm glad it was over quick, and I didn't have to suffer through much more of it.
Just got to get some beef in the ring, pal.
Justice for D'Lo. He deserves better. He deserves better. And The Rock is out here, and he's not in the match, right? But he's out there, and no Steve Austin, so that's a little disappointing. Yeah. I am very much looking forward to that Austin and Rock match at the pay-per-view. I think they've done a great job building up to that. So why have The Rock out there at all? I mean, I know that D'Lo, he's in the Nation, but fuck, don't give me The Rock without giving me Austin right now. That was a little bit of a tease that I didn't like. And the Jackal, he sucks. At least he's dressed differently. This is the black leather look that I remember from him. But yeah, he's terrible.
Yeah.
He should not get the mic time that he gets. It's just really not good.
I don't think anybody really planned on him having the mic time that he got here. I think he just tried to take some, and he got shooed away by commentary. At least that's the vibe I got. Nobody really wants him around, including me and the crowd.
Yeah.
Like Captain
Away.
Lou. So Captain Lou kind of has like a commandant thing going on in that at least Captain Lou is fun to make fun of.
Well,
like the Jackal needs to just go away.
He's got the go home heat.
Yeah. Somebody that does not, though, is Degeneration X. DX came out at the top of the ramp next with Shawn Michaels in a wheelchair. Chyna looked great. I feel like I haven't said that enough lately, but she looked very good in this promo. Shawn and Triple H made a point of shit-talking Jim Neidhart for the way they suckered him last week, which in and of itself was very funny to me. But then things got bogged down in some of the other storytelling. Triple H was addressing Sergeant Slaughter about their upcoming boot camp match. Eventually they got to Ken Shamrock too. Shawn's going to be having a match with him at the pay-per-view. And this felt really low energy again. A couple of the DX promos lately have given me that feeling of just being sedated almost. And if I'm being honest, this was boring to me. I hate to say that. I never thought that I'd say that about a DX segment, but I mean, I was even bored when they got to the punchline of the segment, which was that Shawn had a fake leg that Triple H ended up twisting around. All I could think of is that Diesel and Mad Dog Vachon did it better.
Oh.
And that is where this segment and the first hour of Raw ended. So, Joe, what did you think of this ending segment here?
I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. You mentioned Chyna looking good, and it looked like she had some of Sunny's oil and glitter on her too, which looked great. But yeah, I guess I don't know. Like, it sounds silly to say that I loved this if you're just hearing it on a podcast. But I guess if you're watching it, to me, it just, I don't know. I thought it was fucking hilarious. Just twisting the leg. And it started with Sean saying that, you know, he's in the wheelchair because he's been training legs a little too hard with China in the gym, which I thought that was a nice touch there.
Yeah.
And just the twisting of the leg, like how many times I just thought it was fucking hilarious. And I liked Triple H's line that he gave about Sergeant Slaughter, talking about the piece of artillery that he's saving for Slaughter's wife.
The big bazooka.
The big bazooka. I fucking loved that too. So I did really enjoy this. Oh, also, them ripping apart Jim Neidhart, that came off as a shoot to me because everything they were saying is basically true.
Yeah.
About how terrible he is as a wrestler.
To break the tie here, Joe, I'm in your corner. I loved this. I thought it was fucking hilarious. And, you know, it started out, we see Shawn Michaels in this wheelchair, and then we see the crowd, and they're starting to enjoy it too. We see some kids, and one has electrical tape with DX on his face. His buddy has a old Heartbreak Kid t-shirt that he's now covered in electrical tape that says DX. So, you know, some people in the crowd are starting to get on board with these degenerates. It's not just me and Joe. I also just love the shoot style interview here on Neidhart. That was great because it was all true. And when they got to the point where Michaels is explaining why he's in the wheelchair, the moment they started spinning it like a Looney Tune cartoon, I fucking loved it. I'm sorry. I popped. I thought it was hilarious. It was like he was moving it like the hand of a clock, just around and around. I popped for it. We also got a new nickname for Triple H here. At one point, Sean drops the nickname Try for Triple H. So there's a new one.
Jim Ross is like, try. Give me a break.
I'm not sure I'm as up on that nickname as I was the rest of this. But yeah, Joe, I'm with you. I laughed my ass off.
Well, we can certainly all agree that shit-talking Jim the Anvil Neidhart is a good time.
Yes. Very realistic, you know.
The second hour kicked off with a replay of the action from last week, where Stone Cold Steve Austin tricked The Rock into looking at his beeper to set up a stunner, and that took us into our next match. Rocky Maivia, with the Nation of Domination, defeats Vader by countout in 5 minutes and 10 seconds. I loved Rocky saying that this would be a non-title match prior to Vader coming out. Everybody will remember that Rocky is holding the Intercontinental belt hostage until their match at the next pay-per-view. But then things got really weird, as in the editing got really weird, as Stone Cold Steve Austin drove that black Ford truck with the Stone Cold graphics into the arena in a nicely pre-made truck-sized hole in the crowd there, and it felt like either the Cock or the WWF had to patch like a bunch of video and audio feeds together, like cobble these different sources together to make this coherent. I guess Austin was supposed to be blasting music, but that must have got removed because there was some really shitty like commercial elevator music playing over it.
Every time the camera would cut to the truck, they'd have to put that music back on.
The mixing of the levels was really perfect. I don't know how you guys
how we figured
even
it out.
Noticed.
Yeah.
So I ended up classifying this as a phone call match. Because like you say, you know, the camera kept going back to Austin and his audio before going back to the match and its audio. And this back and forth was fucking terrible. Frankly, it ruined this match and segment for me, switching back and forth like that and just the shitty audio. The Nation ganged up on Vader at the outside. The ref watched and did nothing. Vader was no-selling everything anyway, but the artist formerly known as Goldust ran in and attacked Vader. and that's what drew Vader out of the ring to get the count-out loss. And that shitty editing just kept going as we just kept going back and forth between The Rock and Stone Cold for all of their reactions until this finally ended. Man, I'm sure that if that stuff doesn't bother you, then this was probably pretty entertaining, but just it ruined for me what was probably going to be the most entertaining segment of the entire show, or at least match up to that moment. Joe, what did you think of this?
Well, I do agree with you on this. I understand the cock has to do what they have to do here. Clearly, Austin's truck was playing licensed music that they had to edit out. It was edited out very poorly. So this was a situation to me where this comes off very poorly on television, but for the live crowd, this had to be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Or even if we just were watching it live on television, it probably would have been awesome.
Yeah, it would have been a little better than what we got here on the cock, that's for sure. But, Austin's standing on top of the truck, and Steve Austin has beers in his hand. This is the first time that we've seen it. Now, I was watching this very carefully because I want to know when it is that this man takes his first sip of beer on television, and they didn't show it. I don't know if this was maybe they were testing it out with USA, but after we saw earlier with the shit that Goldust was doing, I'm not sure why USA Network would give a shit about somebody drinking a beer, but who knows? So I think we are now at the beginning of the blatant ripping off of the Sandman gimmick for Steve Austin. I think we're going to start to get a lot of the beer drinking here, which is pretty exciting. Yeah. Pretty exciting. But yeah, I do agree. This segment did not come off great on television to me, but I think it would have been pretty awesome for the live crowd. And I cannot believe that Vader is still alive.
I do have to give a little bit of leeway to this match because I do feel that not even just being live, I think if we would have been watching this back in 1997, they wouldn't have edited out the music and everything would have flowed much, much better. The editing because of Stone Cold's music is what really hurt this entire segment. If not for that, this is damn entertaining. You have The Rock in the ring. He's getting distracted by Stone Cold. The crowd is loving everything Stone Cold's doing. Joe, as you mentioned, we get Stone Cold with a six-pack. I mean, holy shit, there it is. The beer has entered the scene, This is gonna be just as iconic as the Stunner is for Stone Cold, having the six-pack with him. Another thing that really is hammered home here is Stone Cold's ability to put anyone over that he's in the arena with. I mean, for fuck's sakes, he got Vader over because Vader cheered or, motioned the Stone Cold to come down to the ring or whatever. And people are cheering for Vader. We haven't seen that in years. So Stone Cold has an amazing ability to put over anyone in his vicinity. But unfortunately, some modern day editing kind of ruined this segment from us really getting to feel it at its full.
Yeah. So the way that I was looking at this is this is a classic example of overreacting. If they had licensed music in there that they need to get out of there, Joe, like you say, that's fine. I understand the need to do that, but by shoehorning in this shitty elevator music, this canned, you can tell it's just stuff that Jim Johnston had laying on the cutting room floor that they picked up and just pasted in there. It would have been so much better to just do nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, they only actually mentioned the music once or twice. The commentary did, maybe 3 times at most. So it's not like it really would have been a really big head-scratching moment,
Yeah, maybe just put in some fake crowd noise.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're good at that.
They do that enough, yeah.
Well, and I wonder if, the way they did it, if it was because the music maybe was just so loud over the track that all they could do was blare music. They couldn't even make it quiet music. It had to be loud.
That was more the issue for me. I don't care about the actual song or track itself. It was just the editing, the level was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it was just noticeably annoying while you're watching it.
Yeah. All of that effort into something that just made it even worse. And this is also, not only is this the first time that Steve Austin's drinking beer for us, or at least showing up with a six-pack, it's also our first time seeing him drunk driving, which is great. We're going to be seeing a lot of that, too.
Hey, he's on private property. That's allowed.
Oh, that is true. Hopefully he won't overdo it and overcorrect one day and ram a fucking Zamboni into a ring, but, Let's move along here. What's up next? Oh, it was a video package that was highlighting Ken Shamrock. Pretty sure we just had one of those last week and the week before, but whatever. That led us into our next match. Brian Christopher defeats Scott Taylor by non-appearance before it could get started.
Damn.
Yeah. In a WWF light heavyweight title tournament semifinal match.
Talk about getting the jobber treatment.
By God. Ryan, you wouldn't happen to have the date of Scott Taylor's Jobber of the Week. Just a refresher for our listeners.
I absolutely do, because he surely would have got it here for losing a match by it not happening. But
yeah.
Scott Taylor was our Jobber of the Week back on October 24th, 1994. So head back there if you want to hear more about Scott Taylor.
Thank you, Ryan. We and Ryan specifically did Scott Taylor much more service and dignity in that segment than he got in this one. Scott Taylor was out and waiting in the ring, but it was Kane that came out to the Hellfire and Brimstone. And after the inevitable smear job, Paul Bearer once again blamed The Undertaker for Kane's behavior, and they left. Jerry Lawler informed us then that because Brian Christopher never showed up and Scott Taylor got smeared, that just means that Brian Christopher automatically wins this match. And I think that this was the moment for me. I mean, I wasn't quite there earlier in the night, but this was the moment for me that completely turned me off of anything that the light heavyweight tournament had to offer. I was barely able to take it seriously before, but this so-called match and the decision to advance Brian Christopher just really drove it home that nobody cares, kid.
If you had any inkling that it was a legitimate tournament,
yeah,
gone, killed right here.
Yeah, well, Ryan, what else did you have on this match?
I mean, match.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to see Kane again. The moment the lights go out, the organ plays, you know what's going to happen. By God, Scott Taylor was already a Jobber of the Week, but man, he would have certainly got it here. He tries to dropkick Kane, but Kane's just completely unfazed and destroys Scott Taylor and sends him straight to Jobberville so hard that this match is just gonna not exist and Brian Christopher is gonna move on. I don't understand how that works. I need it explained to me by someone as to how Scott Taylor is the one that loses this match. But I mean, whatever. I guess that no one cares about the light heavyweight division, so I guess I don't either.
I thought about you, Bartlett, during this. My thoughts and prayers were with you because I know you're a big fan of a good bracket. And that bracket has been busted here, so
tarnished.
That's a shame. But I would like to put Scott Taylor over here. I think that, Ryan, you said he was a Jobber of the Week in 1994 on our show. Well, here we are all the way in 97, and Scott Taylor's going to, I don't know, in a few months here, he's going to have some success, which is really exciting, and he deserves it because he did a really good job here, and I stress the word job. I think he did a great job putting Kane over here. I think that he took all the moves really well, and the drop kicks looked really good.
Yeah.
That Kane was no selling. So well done, Scott Taylor. And unfortunately, we got our taints tickled very hard. We did not get to see Scott Taylor versus Brian Christopher for the first time, but maybe we'll see it soon, and we will get that tag team forming shortly.
Yeah.
I'm sure once the light heavyweight division falls apart in the next couple weeks, then we'll see them together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it does too. I think Taka, I looked this up, like Taka holds the belt for like 2 years, something like that. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And then what? It just goes away and then they just give it to Gillberg? Is that what happens?
No, that's whenever it starts changing hands. But Taka has it forever.
Taka, in 2 years, he will do a new move in the ring and then he'll lose the belt.
I totally agree about Scott Taylor, though. I mean, he earned our respect on his back in this match.
Yeah.
He's, at this point, has been in the WWF, jobbing it out, putting in his time and pain, and it's going to pay off. He is going to hit the pay window here real soon.
As Mr. McMahon would say, it's a time-honored tradition.
Also, the first time I've ever seen non-appearance as a victory condition. Hopefully the last time.
How does the non-appearing person win is the real question.
Well, didn't that happen on another Kane appearance with, I forget who it was, but I thought we already had that. Who was Crush supposed to, or who was the Crush squashing? Wasn't that another non-appearance victory by somebody?
I didn't think it was a victory. I just thought it was a non-contest.
Yeah, they've all been no contests up to this point, at least. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, speaking of, let's go to our next match. Jeff Jarrett versus Ahmed Johnson ends before it could even get started. And this is not a Kane segment, unfortunately. Actually, this was all right. I love how Ahmed is practically an afterthought in all of this. That was pretty cool to see. Jeff comes out, says he refuses to wrestle, and given that he was scheduled against Ahmed Johnson, I can't really blame him. I fucking loved when Jeff called Ahmed a water-retaining idiot. It's one of the best put-ons I've ever heard. It sounds especially good coming out of Jeff Jarrett's mouth. But then Commissioner Slaughter comes out and informs Jeff Jarrett will, for sure, absolutely be wrestling at the upcoming pay-per-view, and he then informed everyone that Jarrett would be taking on The Undertaker there. And that's where this segment ended. So this was another one that wasn't in my research for obvious reasons now, I guess. But the big takeaway for me is that this felt like Ahmed is on his way out. Joe, what did you have on this?
Well, the other thing is they randomly told us that Ahmed Johnson flipped his car.
Yeah.
That was pretty wild.
Afterthought.
Yeah, these guys need to not adjust the sunroof while they're driving, please.
Well, he's injury prone.
Yeah.
He hurt his finger opening up the moonroof.
I will skip ahead to my highlight of the show, and it occurred during this segment because Sergeant Slaughter comes out while Ahmed Johnson's in the ring and tells Jeff Jarrett that he will be facing a star-quality, top-notch opponent, and it's not Ahmed Johnson. Could you bury the shit out of Ahmed Johnson even more on TV? I loved it, and he will be facing The Undertaker, playa, and not Ahmed Johnson, that piece of shit standing in the ring.
That just makes me think of the story from D'Lo Brown talking about Ahmed thinking that he had a match against The Undertaker when The Undertaker had the belt. And he came up and asked D'Lo, do you think I'm ready for it? And he was like, ready for what? To win the heavyweight belt. And D'Lo said, I looked at him and said, you think you're going to fucking win the belt tonight off of The Undertaker? Have you talked to Vince yet? Oh, yeah, just burying of Ahmed Johnson here, right in front of his face. I mean, Sergeant Slaughter came out here and just right to his face said, here's a piece of shit. You're not going to wrestle him. But let's be honest, why would Jeff Jarrett want to wrestle Ahmed Johnson, the man who broke his fucking back? He didn't mention that, so I'll give Jeff Jarrett, the person, a little bit of credit there for not burying Ahmed and completely breaking kayfabe and talking about him breaking his back. But Jeff Jarrett versus The Undertaker? I mean, it was good for the spot, but I don't know. It just seems a bit not matched well. The Undertaker is a few tiers above Jeff Jarrett, both in caliber, star power, and weight class. So I don't know what to think about the match, but this segment was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it makes sense for what they've been doing. Jeff Jarrett bitching about how he has these inferior opponents. Well, okay, asshole. If you want a real opponent, you're going to go up against The Undertaker.
No, it makes sense. I'm just worried about, what it's actually going to produce.
Well, I think it might have some hellfire and brimstone.
Yeah. That's the other thing. Undertaker needs to be in the ring with somebody other than Kane, and who better than Jeff Jarrett? But I totally see where you're coming from with that, because I can't explain why, but it just feels like that's going to be a huge clash in styles. Mm-hmm. And again, I can't put my finger on any specific reason why I think that, but
if it even happens.
If it even happens, yes. Old Jeff will be getting smeared next. All right. Oh, God. Next up was a video package comparing Sergeant Slaughter to the top military leaders of World War II.
Cool.
Before angling back to Sarge's upcoming match against Triple H at the pay-per-view. I mean, they had stock footage of Eisenhower and MacArthur and just all kinds of
Winston
shit.
Churchill.
Yeah.
Was the big bazooka on that video package at all?
That led us into our next match. Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg defeat the Headbangers by disqualification in 2 minutes and 55 seconds. We did start this off with a couple video replays of Billy Gunn exploding that boombox over Thrasher's face, so that was nice. And I liked commentary highlighting that we all knew that LOD would be showing up. That did a pretty good job of killing whatever anticipation I might have had for the obvious run-in. And of course, the LOD, they did run in, and we got another one of those really nice views of the tag champs running out of the arena, jumping into an Oldsmobile and peeling out of the parking lot, which was probably the most entertaining part of the match for me.
Bank robbers.
That's all I've got on this. Ryan, what'd you have?
I don't have a ton more to really add other than the Road Dogg comes down. And, earlier I talked about how his entrance was getting closer. This time he reverts back to the you better page somebody and really puts it back a few decades with that term.
Well, we did have a pager on Raw last week.
Yeah,
316.
We did.
Yeah,
we did. But you got to page someone isn't going to be the final term he's going to land on. As far as the match went, it was pretty uneventful and predictable. We saw LOD come out earlier. Of course, they were going to come out and interrupt this, and thankfully the King points that out. He doesn't even pull punches. At the beginning of it, he's just saying, well, we're waiting for LOD to come out. And he's right. That's what we were waiting for. But I did pop when they jumped in the Cutlass Supreme and burnt tire out of the arena. So I got a good laugh out of that segment again.
Yeah, I agree. Very predictable. They are no longer Kiss unmasked. They did have their face paint on this time. And yeah, they interrupted. Big surprise, I guess. Even the peeling out, I enjoyed it, but they didn't get very far this time because there was something in their way. So that, I don't know. The camera probably could have cut out a little earlier, but it's still funny to see that.
Yeah. I wonder at what point they made the conscious decision to stop using pager. Were they just ahead of the curve and were like, this technology is not going to last much longer. We should probably stop using that.
Well, 97, it was already starting. 97, 98, cell phones were starting to take over at that point. And, by 99, doctors are the only ones that had pagers still,
Yeah. Well, like I said before, if your beeper goes off and you see 316, that means your ass is mine.
Yep.
Pivotal moment in the history of pagers.
You sure love to talk about men's asses.
He's an ass man.
So after that last segment, we got another fucking Michael Cole voiceover video package. This time it was highlighting the angle between DX and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and it felt like we had a dozen of these.
Love it, though. Keep showing that humiliation of Jim Neidhart.
Well, we'll see some more of it tonight.
So I liked it earlier and later, but this, I think Michael Cole is just really shitting the bed in these voiceovers.
He needs tabletopped again.
He does.
The
he absolutely
clutch.
does. He needs goozled or something because he's fractionally better than when he first started. So I can't say that there's no progress, but by God, it's just a slow, tedious, torturous process.
Well, he's better than Todd Pettingzoo, but he's not quite Kevin Oh My God Kelly.
Yeah, I'll give you that. We also got for the umpteenth time a teaser about unreleased footage from Survivor Series. I guess promising to show us what happened after it all went off the air. I had avoided mentioning it up to this point, but they were putting it over throughout this entire episode also, so we will get that. We also got the news that Marc Mero will be meeting fucking Butterbean in a 4-round tough man contest at the pay-per-view. By God, which is what took us to Jim Cornette introducing Marvelous Marc Mero and Sable down to the ring. Sable was finally wearing something appropriate to her station. They really went balls deep on that new Marvelous moniker, repeating it frequently. I mean, it's even on Mark and Sable's robes. Cornette went straight to it, saying that the crowd doesn't give a single shit about Mero and that they only care about Sable, which was absolutely supported by the crowd noise in response. For the record, Sable looked like a fucking cheap blow-up doll in this segment. She also had the acting and speaking ability of one there. Just imagine the O face. Mero cut an okay promo, but of course the crowd wouldn't stop shouting for Sable. Mero went on to have an exhibition there with Sable wearing those punching mitt things that trainers use and flinching every time Mero hit them, really setting up a PTSD triggering situation, based on the whole domestic abuse angle. This is somebody that we just talked about last week getting punched in the face potentially, and now this guy's throwing punches out there for everybody to see.
Kicked,
yeah,
that's kicked by a horse.
That's right. That was a horse.
That horse that's running amok.
Yeah.
My bad. He is a muck. I did love it, though, when it devolved into a shameless plug for merchandise. Mero pointing out that Sable has been modeling various t-shirts, including the Stone Cold Steve Austin 316 shirt. Mero kicked Sable out of the ring. He finished up his promo threatening Butterbean, and the segment ended. So what really frustrated me about this was that if it weren't for Sable and Butterbean, I could have maybe actually appreciated and gotten into Mero as a heel. I think he did pretty well with the promos here, all things considered. It's just that he's in this angle that I think is dumb and I hate. So, Ryan, what did you think of Mero's interview here?
Well, one of my favorite lines of the night is Jim Cornette says, "Ladies and gentlemen, please give whatever welcome you deem appropriate." To the Marvelous Marc Mero. I popped. That was fucking great. And you could just tell that Cornette, and, knowing off of his more recent comments about Marc Mero, he was not very high up on the mild man, because he quite appropriately points out, despite your win-lose ratio being pretty good, the fans just don't fucking care about you. And he's absolutely correct. And Mark goes on to prove his point when addressing Sable. The crowd just drowns him out, chanting for Sable. They don't want to hear anything he has to say. And at one point, he goes on to say he's out there defining the laws of gravity, rewriting the books on physics. Remember, this isn't his gimmick anymore. He's not a high flyer. He's a boxer. So keep that in mind as he talks about all of his rewriting of the laws of gravity. And I'm sorry, but I watched your matches. You weren't rewriting any books on physics. You sucked as a high flyer. And we've only got a little bit higher up on you as you've moved over to this boxer gimmick. But the rest of this kind of falls apart. He does the stuff with Sable. He then berates Sable. It just went on way too long. I didn't think Mark did a terrible job of making me hate him. By the end of it, I definitely did. You know what I mean? So I'll give him credit there. But yeah, Mark, I can't wait to see him get powerbombed.
Oh, my goodness.
Damn.
We should cut a snippet of Bartlett saying, if it wasn't for Sable and Butterbean, and use that in the future. I love that. I think that Marc Mero here, I'm a bit biased, but when he's doing the domestic abuse promo, I thought it was fantastic. I loved it.
Of course.
But yeah, defying the laws of physics, I'm not so sure I liked that part of it. So I agree with you there. Sable, on the other hand, is, oh boy, they say that acting 101 is, hey, can you cry on command? And she can't even fucking do that. So she can't even fake cry. Like, she's completely useless as an actress. And I can't believe she wanted to be one.
How do you expect a robot to cry?
Yeah. And she looks like one too. She looks like she had like 60 pounds of makeup on her face tonight. And she looked like a robot.
Well, when that horse kicked her in the face, it collapsed her tear ducts.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they're just clogged, I think.
Sympathy. I have no
sympathy. Oh, man. Oh, geez. Hey, let's, we were talking about it all night throughout this episode, so let's settle the screw job once and for all.
Done and over after this video.
That's what's been promised.
I'm happy because, I feel like we haven't talked about it in 4 weeks.
No. We haven't mentioned Bret Hart's name for a month now.
Mm-hmm. And I really want to buy that Coliseum home video too. Like, I hope they don't show it to us for free on TV tonight.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but settling the screw job took about 30 seconds to do with nothing but the same footage, admittedly from a couple different angles, but that's it. And for me, at least, that disappointment was a perfect transition to our final match of the night. Triple H, with the Generation X, defeats Jim the Anvil Neidhart by pinfall in 2 minutes and 29 seconds. So, for the record, always good to see Neidhart get humiliated. I'll just make sure and highlight at the top here. But Neidhart came out wearing one of Ahmed Johnson's Breathe Right strips. That didn't help at all, as he was sucking wind before he got to the ring. And then the finish to this match was a steel chair to the back, with yet another really poor ref distraction. The action in this match was nothing for me to write home about. The end of the match didn't mean the end of the action, though, as DX took their time to plant the Anvil's face in a steel chair with a pedigree, and while the Anvil was down, they spray-painted WCW on his back. The Anvil did get back up, though, and after a little scuffle, DX handcuffed Neidhart to the top rope, but that drew out Sergeant Slaughter, which then drew out Ken Shamrock. And then there was an ankle lock, and then there was a Cobra Clutch, and it was all really hard to take it seriously with a lollipop hanging out of Shawn Michaels' mouth. And everyone forgot about the Anvil being handcuffed.
Did you get it? Because the Anvil is a sucker.
Yeah. I did need that visual to communicate the idea. But yeah, Anvil, he was handcuffed to the top rope the whole time. We completely forgot about him as we faded to black. So I'll just say that I thought this was a fitting finish for this episode. Joe, what did you think of our final match and the way that Raw ended tonight?
Well, I enjoyed the sucker aspect of it because it further buries Jim Neidhart, because Shawn Michaels can beat on him even when he has a sucker in his mouth. He doesn't even have to take that out in order to beat the shit out of Jim Neidhart. So I like that. I like the humiliation of Neidhart again, but yeah, the ending was a little rough. I guess they have to get Ken Shamrock and Sergeant Slaughter over here, though, because they're probably not going to win their matches at the pay-per-view, would be my guess. Speaking of the pay-per-view, I think that this was kind of a shitty go-home episode. Yeah. However, I do think that there are some reasons to buy the pay-per-view, even though this particular episode wasn't great. I mean, you're getting The Rock in Austin, Ken Shamrock versus Shawn Michaels. That's probably enough for me to want to watch the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that, but this match wasn't the way to put that pay-per-view over, though. Bartlett, you pointed out, Anvil, he's sucking wind within 30 seconds of this match. And, some of this stuff didn't look terrible, but the ending was not impressive at all, though. Hunter barely hits Anvil across the back with that steel chair. Yeah. It was a very, very weak hit. And then, we had the antics with the spray paint. Even JR is kind of like, this is old shit. This is NWO stuff. Nothing here's new. And they do give us the predictable schmoz ending. We have Shamrock come out. We have Sergeant Slaughter come out. Both of them applying their finishing move as the handcuffed Anvil holds Chyna back by the back of her pants, and that was kind of how it just ended.
Got a little cartoony there.
Yeah, definitely a little cartoony there. The only thing missing was her feet moving but not going anywhere in the air. That's about the only thing missing. But so a kind of a poor ending, and it didn't really make me care much about going into the pay-per-view. But Joe, to your point, there are some matches I'm interested in. So despite them not trying very hard, I'm still a little interested in the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So I was thinking about the finish to this as just kind of like a holdover from the earlier, the early 90s, the earlier years of Raw that we've seen here. This finish is almost like the go-home show equivalent of Hogan Must Pose. We have to get these specific names in the ring to put over the pay-per-view, regardless of how good it's going to look. And honestly, I didn't think this looked good at all. This was so predictable that you had to wind up with Shamrock out there putting on the ankle lock. You had to wind up with Slaughter in the Cobra Clutch. You could have set your watch to it.
The way it ended, it made me think back to years ago. We had a go-home show that ended with the Bushwhackers, schmoz, and it was just like, who cares? Why is this the ending going into a pay-per-view? And for whatever reason, that scene is what fired in my brain, was the Bushwhackers ending out a go-home show.
This one was at least highlighting two matches that are going to take place, though.
The Bushwhackers maybe had a match, though, at that.
Yeah. Well, I still maintain that the worst way to end a Raw ever was the tuxedo match between Finkelman and Handsome Harvey Whippleman.
That definitely takes the cake.
But we're still a far pace away from, a year or so from now where you've got people running in and backstabbing people out of a finish at the end of a match, or, those really hot crowd-popping moments that are going to lead us into our pay-per-views. Well, as I said, we faded to black, so let's take it on over to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, why don't you take that first?
Highlights. I had to dig kind of hard for a highlight. I like some of the DX stuff, but Joe, I'm so glad earlier that you put Scott Taylor over, because he's my highlight. He got completely jobbed out here, but just his career path and trajectory is my highlight. That should really show you how hard I had to dig tonight for a highlight. My lowlight is lowlights aplenty, but I'm going to go with the four-corner gang warfare bullshit match. Just the moment it started, I knew it was going to be my lowlight.
Yeah, excellent choices. My highlight, as I said earlier, the absolute burial of Ahmed Johnson right in front of his face. For my lowlight, I am going to go with the light heavyweight tournament in general. I think it's already busted. We already don't give a fuck about it. And particularly Taka Michinoku, I'm already kind of bored with his matches, like I said.
Yeah, so we're all different on our highlights here. I had to go with the artist formerly known as Goldust. I mean, I popped my ass off for this bizarre neon gimp in the ring. It was amazing to see. For my lowlights, I kind of got close to the light heavyweight tournament, but specifically victory by no appearance. What the fuck?
Not such a bad episode if we all three had different highlights.
Yeah, That's a great point.
I think that also says, though, that there wasn't a standout highlight. It means we were all just kind of looking for something we kind of liked.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have to.
Yeah, I mean, mine was pretty clear with gold dust, so bright and shining clear. And I was tempted to give just the rest of the episode my low light because I felt this was a pretty poor one, but I didn't want to do that 2 weeks in a row. So, all right, Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around December 1st, 1997 for us?
I do. From the Wrestling Observer, I have a quick update on Steve Austin's neck. He did get some follow-up reports from 2 neck specialists. One of them told him as long as he keeps within his new style of wrestling that he should be fine. And the second doctor said that he may still risk paralysis if he continues to wrestle. So 2 completely different opinions there.
Throw out the second doctor's opinion.
I was going to say that first doctor was that guy, that bum in Philly, getting paid in cigarettes.
Cigarettes, right. He delivered a couple more cartons and, oh yeah, you're good to go, Steve.
Go ahead. You'll be fine.
For the most part, the injury from the Owen Hart piledriver mishap has actually healed, but he still has residual neck damage from his football days and all of his years in wrestling. So, all the issues that he was having prior to that pile driver is what's really giving him problems, I guess. Dan Severn.
Oh.
He had another negotiation session with Jim Ross. Bartlett, can you maybe give us a line?
Maybe how that would have went?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm gonna want to have a nice amount of money. I'm gonna need lots of money to come in here and go up against Ken Shamrock because if we face off again, it's gonna be devastating. And I don't think I want to have a program with any of these degenerates. I don't like what they're doing with that.
Can you say, I want a little extra cheese for my Whopper?
I want a little extra cheese on my Whopper, JR. Give it to me. I want to hit the pay window and I want to hit it hard.
That's how the conversation
It's exactly
really went.
how it went.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a recording from the negotiations, just to make it clear.
And if I don't show up to record next week, you know who knocked on my door and fucking killed me.
I have some really bad news, guys. Crush is currently involved in a contract dispute.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Dave Meltzer reports that Crush is not happy, and it's a solid bet that he will end up in WCW, not that it's any kind of major acquisition for them or anything.
Well, what isn't he happy about? I mean,
I know,
like they're giving him a push, or they did when he first started this stupid gang. They gave him a push. What else do you want? The fact that you suck and the fans don't give a shit, that's not the WWF's fault.
Yeah. Well, I knew that you guys would be passionately upset about that. So the last piece of news will be something good for you, and that is that the interrogator push is being put on the back burner. They were originally giving him a monster push for a program with The Undertaker, playa.
Oh, God. Thank you that has been put on the back burner. Fuck.
It appears that the direction has changed. So good news there to end this show, and that is all.
That is excellent news.
Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And I can't blame The Undertaker one bit. Who the hell would want to have a program with the fucking Kurgan?
Especially, I mean, right now he's knee deep in this great program with another monster, Kane, who's actually capable. Why the fuck would he want to move over to the Kurgan?
I think I know what happened. I think that he said, look, take away my program with the interrogator and I'll allow you to fire Crush.
Going off of just stuff I remember hearing, from like JR and stuff, I wonder if this is part of because originally Kane was not supposed to be a long story. It was kind of supposed to be shortish. He was going to have this little feud, have a match with The Undertaker, and it was going to be over. But I wonder if at this point they kind of saw how Kane was was doing, or Glenn Jacobs more appropriately, how he was doing in the ring, how he was getting over, and said, this has more legs to it than just a one-off match.
Mm-hmm. And they said, fuck you, Integrator.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here, Integrator. All you have is the sidewalk slam. You're gone.
Yeah, and screaming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think that they had The Undertaker and the Kurgan there in the ring together, and The Undertaker said to Commissioner Slaughter, I need to work with somebody in a much higher level than
Top
this. And
Right in
Commissioner
front of his
Slaughter
face.
Said, Kurgan, get the hell out. Best I can do, Taker, is Jeff Jarrett. So
that or The Undertaker said, do we really need another Giant Gonzalez match here on our hands?
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's exactly what it would have been.
It would have. Exactly what it would have been.
All right. And that is it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most despicable Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at In Your House Degeneration X with matches featuring Los Boricuas, the Disciples of Apocalypse, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.